Hi guys, welcome back to the Conscious Kingdom. It's so fantastic to have you all there watching us.
Yeah, we're very excited again to share the space with you, and every time we do it, it gets more and more exciting because we know that it grows, our audience grows, and so are the topics that we get to share grows, and so does our awareness and consciousness grow. So
That's what we hope for.
What we're here to share with you and discuss today.
So yeah, we want to explore into this area because consciousness and self-awareness, how does it help you? What is this video about and why are we doing it? And for us, it's our own journey of understanding the differences between the consciousness and self-awareness and how you can apply that to your own life to get a grip on your own self. And a lot of things that come up are habits. You have habits. A lot of a percentage of our life is consumed by the habits. So unconscious habits that lead us down a path that we'd rather maybe avoid. And you can access this consciousness and bring about the awareness to your habits to reconstruct them in a way that brings you to a place where you feel fulfilled and happy and in the direction that is better for you and the people around you.
Yeah, so there is a fundamental difference between consciousness and awareness. Awareness in itself is more of a passive state. So you can be aware of your feelings, you can be aware of your emotions, of your patterns, you can be aware of the hunger in the world, for example. Whereas consciousness is a different state. Consciousness is reaching a higher level of awareness. So you can be aware and not be conscious. But you cannot be conscious and not be aware. So consciousness is bringing you to its own intelligence. When you are reaching the level of consciousness, then you are reaching the level of better, more, not even understanding, I would say, but a state of being that allows you to see a fuller picture.
Yeah, the awareness is sort of the trigger point. Someone can make you aware of a behavior, a pattern. Once you're aware of it, you make a decision or a choice to go, maybe I should put some effort to transforming this behavior. And the behavior is then like a habit. You don't just get rid of a habit, you replace it with something else, which takes conscious effort. And if you are not willing to put the effort in, you can be aware of it and just observe this habit or this conditioning take over you, a program. And if you've ever been in a situation where you feel like, what, I've got to hang on this, I'm aware of it, and then you're triggered, and then you come out the other end going, what the heck just happened? It's like you're drunk, something else just took over, you get spat out the other end, you're going, I thought I had control of this, and it completely takes over. I've had that a few times in my life, thinking I can go into this, and then the emotions take over and you get drunk on the emotions, and then you are running riot with it. And even though I had the awareness and the consciousness to put the effort in, it still took over. And that's where you don't beat yourself up. You're kind to yourself. Go, look, I'm doing my best. I guess I need to find out the more resources and work more on myself to become even more conscious of the pattern that's, there's a deeper meaning behind it, so that when I'm triggered again, I halt it. The blood is not flowing straight to the amygdala, the fear part of the brain. It starts to flow towards the front lobe. And when you do this with mindfulness meditation, which we did a video before, and we're talking about different aspects of this, then you are then in control of your life, your feelings, your thoughts. And with that gives you such empowerment because you can trust yourself in a situation where you were once triggered before.
And awareness is like a stepping stone towards consciousness. So once you have become aware about something, then it is triggering you, if you are into personal development and self-development, to gain a higher perspective. And consciousness has different connotations to it. It can be, individual consciousness. It can be higher consciousness, it could be collective consciousness, it could be gender consciousness. All of this is, as I said before, it's like an intelligence. It is like you're being part of an intelligence that is above and beyond what a human brain can understand. It is above and beyond, the experiences that are limiting. Consciousness has an ability to teach you. Whereas awareness just gives you an understanding. And this is a very big difference between the two. Because when you align to the consciousness, say for example, we have an awareness that there is world hunger in the world. Yeah? But when you align with the consciousness of compassion, right, then you are able to then be present in that consciousness, and you are then being able to do something about the world hunger, because you have that state of compassion, being in that consciousness of compassion that is teaching you how to do that. So it's more of a spiritual experience. The consciousness, the higher consciousness, is more of a spiritual experience. It's something that can take you a lifetime to really integrate, whereas awareness is gaining an understanding. It's getting an understanding of more of a human experience, what is going on in your world immediately, how you're processing things, how you're functioning as an individual, whereas consciousness gives you that sneak peek into the divine intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful. There's a book that we were reading together, and it's called Transcending the Levels of Consciousness by David Hawkins, which is fantastic. I mean, it's a whole book from your state of being, if you're in shame, poverty mindset, all the way up to what it is to be enlightened. And I remember saying years ago to myself, I would love to become an enlightened being. Why would I love this? Why would I want to go in this direction? And with that why and that drive, and in order to grow and to pull myself out of pain where I was before, which was an amazing why for me to move away from pain towards pleasure. Because of that why, I was willing to go and get beyond my ego to understand myself, where this behavior was coming from, so that I could transcend my levels of consciousness. So I had to then become aware of things that were painful at the beginning, my behavior, and they say, okay, that's, take a hard look at yourself in the mirror and go, okay, that's something I would like to change, and what do I need to do to go about doing that? And taking those steps, because I was holding myself to a higher standard. What would it mean to become an enlightened being? I'm not saying I am an enlightened being or anything, but what are the steps to get there? Researching, looking, being in a relationship certainly brings you closer to enlightenment, because your partner will make you aware, and then with your own consciousness and with the support of your partner, you put the effort in, because you certainly don't want to hear the same lessons show up in the relationship, especially if you have a conscious relationship with one another. So this is also something to be aware of in your own life. Are you in a relationship that is, are you conscious in the relationship, or are you now just becoming aware that you're in a relationship and you're thinking, who am I in this relationship? Who is she or he? Now, what do we want to do about it? Can we come together consciously and move towards a purpose that's bigger than ourselves? Because life will always have its challenges, of course, and if you don't have a purpose or a why that's driving you, there's nothing really to motivate you, inspire you to become conscious, to put the effort in, because you're just doing it for yourself, and you think, well, I can just put the TV on and go unconscious again, and I'm aware of it, but I'd rather forget about it, or I'd rather drink, or I'd rather take drugs or whatever it is to escape it, rather than to expand your consciousness. A lot of people retract when they become aware of it, because they want to forget it's there. So it's a powerful tool, but it also, just a little bit of awareness can be a dangerous thing for somebody who is deeply unconscious. Suddenly they're aware of their unconsciousness, and it can be frightening, but the best thing to do is persevere, and rather than be aware and become unconscious again.
As Freud describes in his studies, there are 3 different levels of consciousness. He describes it as the subconscious, conscious, and superconscious. So The subconscious state of mind, as Alex has described, is something that is driving us underneath without our recognition or awareness, and defines our experiences before they reach the healing. So it's almost like programming, it's patterns, it's conditioning. So this is where the subconsciousness lies. Consciousness is a more a level of awareness. So like we said before, I'm conscious that this is happening. I might be conscious that I am an addict. I'm conscious that I'm an alcoholic. I know I need a drink. So what? That doesn't mean anything in a way of, what are you doing with that consciousness? Unless you're taking a step and acting on it and bringing it to the light, to your super consciousness, then it will get stuck in between the intermediary worlds of the subconscious and superconscious. It will be just awareness that you're not acting upon. So it's like what Alex said. If you're in a conscious relationship and somebody keeps on reminding you over and over again about this pattern, and you're not doing anything about this, it is not serving any purpose, because you consciously avoiding doing something about this, right? So the superconscious, the spiritual experience of it, and when I say superconscious, when I say consciousness lives in the heart. Yeah. So consciousness, it resides in your in your love center. By being able to be present in it more, making it reach a ritualistic commitment of really nurturing your relationship with your heart, you expand your consciousness. So the consciousness starts to create this interweaving between all the different consciousness and your individual and your collective and your cultural and your human consciousness. All of those become one consciousness. So that is where you can really get the healing. This is where you can really see how your subconsciousness was actually bringing you always to your gift, to your consciousness. That's why, as Alex was describing in the transcendent levels of consciousness, where you start with the lower vibrations of shame being the first one, when we're being born into this world and we're ashamed of ourselves just for being born. It's like a collective inheritance that we have in our programming, right, in our DNA. And when that shame gets enough consciousness, so you basically let it reside in your heart, and it turns into self-love. Is it?
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Don't quote us on that.
But I think it's almost it turns into self-love, as far as I remember. Again, don't quote us on that, but you get the idea that we're going with. So it basically becomes your gift, right? So each one of those levels, like say for example the 7 virtues, which are say the guilt and the shame and the blame and whatever, all 7 of them, those they're not virtues, they're vices. Those vices can turn into your virtues, and they can only do that through consciousness, through bringing it into your heart and integrating into your human process in the conscious, aware way.
Well, going into that, what is awareness according to Sadhguru? Awareness is a process of inclusiveness, of embracing this entire existence. You can set the right conditions so that it happens. If you bring body, mind and energies into alignment, awareness will blossom. When we become conscious, our competence becomes a great boom for all life. And Sadhguru says, moving from compulsiveness to consciousness is the only way out for a human being and humanity as a whole. Now, this is why we're doing this, because we're a collective consciousness, and the more we become aware collectively, the more changes will come about that will really align to what people really need. We're not looking, we talk about democracy and politics and things like this, and I think it's becoming more and more clear to all of us that the only way we can get to a place that is of justice and fairness for all is moving away from the old system, the old paradigm, and creating a new earth that allows us to treat each other kindly, creating systems that are fair for all, because we all want to love and appreciate each other, because we're now becoming aware and conscious of certain systems and paradigms that just no longer serve us. So it's great we do it individually to then do it collectively, to then go about creating the new earth together. Right?
Yeah, and you can also always witness the consciousness rising of the planet based on the different changes in the evolutionary patterns that you notice. So we often say wherever there is challenge, there is support, and the levels of consciousness, the growth of the levels of consciousness. If you look at, say for example, a ball, like a balloon. When the expansion happens, and you look at both sides of the balloon, when the expansion happens, right, the sides of the balloon become, there is more distance between the sides of the balloon. So that's how, when the consciousness grows, the polarity can also grow. Actually, us being able to see the polarity is also growing. So right now, where we are noticing that after the corona has blessed us on earth, how there is a difference in the level of awareness and the level of consciousness of what is going on in the world, right? So there is vaccinated and unvaccinated people, and so that's created a drift in choosing different realities and choosing different way of coping with the evolution, of coping with the expansion. And so that is again all the divine design. It's got in it the divine intelligence to be able to then offer more opportunities for us as individuals to create the world that we desire, to create the new earth. Like for us, in this moment where everything is changing, it's a lot easier to talk about new ideas in the new earth than, say, for example, when everything was stable, more or less, and, there was very little fluctuations in the historical kind of like overview. When now we kind of like everything just boomed, there is more of a need for certainty. There is more of a need for a new system, because we are now realizing that the old system is not working. So this is the example of the growth in consciousness, collective consciousness.
Yeah, right? And you know what? And to further your point there, because when you have awareness and consciousness and you are seeing the world go through its changes, you see opportunity. You become opportunistic, because when you're not in a victim mindset and you're aware of yourself and you're conscious, you'll see that there are times and spaces where you can create what is needed because there's a new problem and you can create that solution. And when you come from that place, because we were living it last year, and through that we created a couple of companies that we felt would really benefit ourselves and people around the world. We have obviously big ambitions, but because we're aware, we're conscious, we didn't just fall into the habit, for example, of parenting. We saw something there and went, we're aware of it, and now we're becoming conscious of it. We can create a conscious app for parents, as an example, so that instead of parents getting stuck in the same monotonous sort of routine, and they go round and round thinking, why are we doing the same thing every day, thinking we're going to get a different result? That's insanity, right? So we are looking to help parents to become conscious of how they parent through this app. And we look to devise our company in order to help people become conscious, right? The cafe, to make people aware of what they're eating and what they're putting in their body.
To be present.
And the self-love, again, is a way of people to, women at the moment, to do rituals to do with the makeup and creams, and you know this far more than I do, in a way that it becomes a habit that is habitually something they can do every day, that is about loving themselves and knowing that they feel good about themselves. So again, it's conscious, not unconsciously putting it on. We're bringing the industry up to bring consciousness about, through our products. And that's what, we love to do. We love it when people wake up and they become conscious and they take ownership of their life, and then they just go for it. And we watch that. That for us is like the biggest gift, more than anything else, because when you see that light switch on and they feel empowered and they go after it and then they flourish and they grow, I mean, that's, that's really what gets us going, right?
And how about the examples that we have seen in the companies, and how such places as, fintech companies and FX brokers, and how, that now that it's being the change in the paradigm and a lot of people are seeing the truth about the industries. What does that mean for consciousness of the people? So now that the truth comes up, for example, that there is this been recent controversial truth that's been coming up about the fact how the whole system, the financial system, has been operating, how often people were victims of this machine that has not been, that didn't have their interest at heart at all, because if they didn't basically have a chance to even trade properly because the tips they were given were working against them. So it's basically like, for us, it was such a shock because we were invested in one of those companies. And to see that happening, and you ask yourself, and you wonder, how are people going to react, and what are people going to do next? And this is where you will see whether the vice or the virtue will take over, right? So those who are driven by greed, who have gone into this machine and have this idea that they will eventually get some money at some point, there will be a payout day, or they have a job security because of this company, they have easy money, for example. So then it becomes like oh, you know what, we need to keep these companies afloat, because that means that our job security is there and we still will be able to get money. But then how are you getting that money? Are you getting that money at somebody else's expense because they were misinformed and not experienced and not educated enough because they trusted you? So this is where it's like this, the consciousness level and the division of the two, and the choice between the vice and the virtue will show which paradigm you will end up in. Are you going to be are you going to become the rebel of the old system, or are you going to join the new system where your value for morality is above your need for greed and need for money?
Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video, and hopefully we've stirred it up and giving a few different perspectives on awareness, consciousness, and how you can apply it to your life just through our experiences. And we can't wait to share the new upcoming videos.
It's been amazing, guys. Thank you so much for sharing the space with us. Much, much love. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.